What's going on, everybody? It's Reed of the Love for the Game podcast. Appreciate you clicking on this video. Just going to give a quick update before we get into the video. This is going to be a tier list of all 35 FBS head coaches with my boy Jake of College Football Red Zone. We are doing shows with him Monday and Thursdays every week, so make sure to go subscribe to his channel down below. It's going to be linked in the description below. As well, it's going to be streamed on the YouTube channel here and on my Twitter. Update I wanted to give everyone was I'm going to be a new contributor for Blitz Sports Media. Just started this past week. Wanted to give a formal introduction to that. So I'll be a contributor to their college football division. We'll be writing articles, giving out some hopefully not awfully hot takes on their website as well. But we'll be a contributor to their website. I will be linking my articles that I've already written for them down in the description below. So if you want to go check that out, would appreciate any and all feedback to those articles that I have written for them. But let's get right into the video with Jake. This was recorded last night on College Football Red Zone Live. Again, make sure to go subscribe to his channel down in the comments below. And yeah, let's get right into it.
Sacramento State gets to be a part of that institution and will be one of 35 coaches that we're going to take a look at in terms of what we think about them as a hire. And we have it broken down in 5 different tiers. We have the top tier, the home run tier. That is an A+ hire. That's one that we absolutely love. We have rock solid that we think is a good hire. This is not necessarily a perfect hire. Meh is okay. Don't really have any strong feelings either way. Then the last 2 tiers that we have here tonight is we have the very bottom tier is what are we doing? A great phrase that we have here on the show from yours truly, one where we have so many questions. We're wondering what this program was thinking in hiring this particular candidate, and they have questions, meaning I have some animosity towards this hire. So,
which I have plenty.
We're talking about Northern Illinois. It's only appropriate that we start with Rob Harley. Been a head coach for 24 hours now. And for me personally, I had Rob Harley as in that I have questions tier.
I definitely agree with you. I feel like if they went out and gave Peyton Lynch a call, the greatest player in their school's history, I feel like he would have taken the job in a heartbeat. But because they are promoting their defensive coordinator and he is unproven as a head coach, we have no idea who's going to be doing the offensive or defensive play calling, as we just said. I'm gonna have to put him in the I have questions tier.
Starting with Alex Golesh. I'm a little bit higher on him. I actually have him in that rock solid tier. I love the fact that he was able to turn that USF program around. Golesh did a really nice job turning him around. Does have ties to the SEC footprint as well, which I think is very important, particularly for that conference.
Totally agree. I graded Alex Golesh as a B+ hire, so totally put him in that rock solid category. I think his experience being Tennessee's offensive coordinator previous to his USF head coaching position, I feel like that's going to play dividends. He's seen the SEC before. He knows how to prepare against an SEC defense. Alex Golesh is definitely in that rock solid category. The biggest question for me, though, is how does he mesh with DJ Durkin on the defensive side? I feel like that's going to be the biggest question. If Auburn's defense can stay consistent and Golesh can, get that Auburn offense back running, full steam ahead, because they did lose pieces in the portal. Let's not forget they did lose Cam Coleman. They did lose Eric Singleton. So they did lose some of their main offensive players, but they did bring a few from South Florida. So you have to bake in that some of the South Florida talent will be able to perform at this level. So I'm going rock solid hire for Alex Golesh, I think.
But for now, we move on to the next coach on this list, a man that is taking over as the head coach for UAB, Alex Mortensen. He was the interim head coach for UAB after Trent Dilfer got fired. This is another one of those coaches where I had as the I have questions tier. Kind of the same situation as NIU. Because even though UAB played a little bit better, they still went 2-4.
Jake, we're 3 for 3.
Oh my god!
I also have him in the I have questions. I graded him as a D higher, solely because he doesn't have the experience as a head coach. I mean, he was the interim last year, but then again, we'll get to Pete Golding later. I have thoughts about that. So it's definitely going to be interesting. Exactly for what you said. UAB's offense was very productive last year, and their defense, yeah, was something. So I think being a first-time head coach at a level of UAB, though, is definitely, okay. I feel like that's a good level if you are to get your first head coaching position at a school like UAB. I feel like it's definitely a manageable position. And again, most of the first-time head coaches, I'm going to put an eye of questions or at least meh. So Alex Morrison, I graded a D personally, but definitely have questions for sure.
Someone that I don't have as many questions about because they are a little bit more experienced, so is Billy Napier. I do have Billy Napier higher than a couple of the coaches that we already talked about. But for me, when it comes to Billy Napier, I couldn't go any higher than meh. But this was also a coach that was recently fired. And it was something that I alluded to as well. Are we going to see Sunbelt Billy that gave Billy Napier the Florida job back when he was hired for that position a few years ago? Or are we going to see Florida Billy that got fired, even though he had incredible talent such as DJ Lagway?
I feel like at the current stage, Billy Napier is a meh head coach. Just solely because you have to go off recency bias here. His time in Florida wasn't great. We're going into 2025, had a loaded roster on paper, but quickly that got shot down after they lost to South Florida in week 2 at home. I think JMU is a good step back for him, solely because, like you said, Jake, all of his major coaching success has been at the G5 level with Louisiana. So I feel like because JMU has produced, 2 fantastic head coaches in their last 2 coaches, namely Kurt Signetti and Bob Chesney. Perfect position for him to get his feet back under him, out what was successful at Louisiana, take what he learned from Florida, and, be consistent again at JMU, because that's a program that has shown to produce high-level coaching talent. And I feel like it's just a good position for him. I personally ranked him as a B. Take that with a grain of salt, though. As a head coach at the current moment, Billy Napier is a meh higher.
And speaking of the G5 and speaking of the Sun Belt, actually, the next coach that we have on deck here as well, Blake Anderson. He is going to take over as the head coach of Southern Miss. He was most recently on Charles Huff's staff as the offensive coordinator at Southern Miss. For me, I also went meh here for different reasons. He was fired from his previous head coaching job. He was fired from Utah State.
Jake, we finally disagree.
Oh my goodness, we're capable of thinking differently. Incredible.
We are capable of having our own individual thoughts. It's crazy. I'm solely basing this off the Utah State debacle, if we want to call it that. He was fired due to a Title IX incident where a player, I'm not even going to go into specifics, a Title IX issue. He was withholding that information from the university and then proceeded to get fired because he never told anyone about the situation at hand. So because of that history, I'm going with what are we doing? Because I personally don't think that he should be a head coach. I don't think he should be a head coach at a power football level. But considering that wasn't that long ago, I just don't trust him at the moment. I don't know the dude. Don't know him personally. Could be a really cool guy. Could be a nice guy. But because of withholding that information, I gave him an F for that, because that's, above and beyond, just bad faith as a head coach.
How about a coach that doesn't have maybe as checkered of a pass as who we just finished discussing about, Bob Chesney, former head coach of James Madison, and now he is the head coach at UCLA. I had Bob Chesney as a meh. So here, I know we saw what happened with James Madison this year. Is one that we're talking about a coach that doesn't have any power head coaching experience yet. Winning in the Sun Belt is different than trying to win consistently in the Big Ten. We're talking about a head coach that has zero ties to the West Coast. So because he doesn't really have the ties to the West Coast, and because he doesn't have that power for head coaching experience, That was why I had him as Matt.
Exactly for what you said. That was the only knock I had on him. But he did bring in the 33rd ranked transfer portal class this past cycle. So at least from that point of view, it's optimistic. If he's able to lure talent to UCLA. His coaching career, 21-6 at James Madison, numerous winning seasons and playoff appearances at the Division III, Division II, and FCS level. I'm putting him in rock solid. I personally think stylistically he's a great head coach. I think just stylistically and what he's been able to accomplish as a head coach, and also from the perspective that he took over for the one and only Kurt Signetti at JMU and still went 21-6 in 2 seasons. So, and took JMU to their first ever playoff appearance.
Next coach that we do have on deck is Brian Hartline, getting his first head coaching opportunity, leaving as the offensive coordinator at Ohio State to become the head coach at Southern Florida. But yeah, Brian Hartline, it was a rock solid hire. I know he doesn't have head coaching experience, but he knows how to recruit in Southern Florida. And he does have college football playoff experience as a coordinator as well.
I'm good with him in the rock solid category. I personally, now I might be a little bullish here. I said this is an A+ hire. I said he's an A+ hire just solely because of the talent he has been able to acquire. Now, granted, it was at Ohio State, so they do have name recognition with that. But outside of the wide receiver room at Ohio State, he's been the best recruiter overall for Ohio State in the country, arguably, over the past 3-4 seasons, however long he's been there. So I think he's brought in a lot of talent that can impact that roster immediately. And I personally have him as a very good contender for the G5 spot in the playoffs this coming season. I think time will tell stylistically, but I mean, we saw Ohio State last year when he was the main play caller. They were taking shots. I put it as an A+ hire just solely because I think he was one of the most underrated, coaches on the market.
Another person I do want to put in a rock solid hire is the head coach that was hired at Missouri State as well, Casey Woods. He was the offensive coordinator at SMU, notably helping with the development of Kevin Jennings and being part of that coaching staff where SMU did make the college football playoff a couple of years ago. But at the same time, though, he does have playoff experience similar to Brian Hartline. So I actually have Casey Woods as a rock solid hire in my book as well.
I think this is a good hire if he's able to translate that offensive success to a holistic approach to a football team. I think it's going to do wonders. I'm curious to see if he does be the main play caller offensively for Missouri State, or he does similar to NIU's interim head coach. If he, kind of takes a step back, looks at his whole team holistically, and inserts himself where he sees fit. I see it as a solid hire for sure. I think there's a lot of upside with Casey Woods.
Next coach that we have, Charles Huff. I think I'm feeling a little bold tonight, Reed. I think this is a home run hire by Memphis. And so Charles Huff goes into another G5 place. And not only that, he also has the ties in the state of Tennessee and really in that prime recruiting area that Memphis wants to go recruit as well. Given that Memphis is in the American, though, I'm willing to say that this is a home run hire.
Personally graded Charles Huff as a B+. So I'm good with like the upper tier of rock solid to home run hire. So 2 years ago, he won 10 games at Marshall before taking the Southern Miss job. So you have to, again, recency bias as a head coach. He's a proven winner. He's a proven program builder. I definitely am aligned with you on, especially for a G5 hire, especially at Memphis and the highs that they're coming off of with Ryan Silverfield. This is a, on the base, on the, doorsteps of being a home run hire for sure.
Anyhow, the next one that we do have is Eric Morris. I do have Eric Morris as a rock solid hire. Really love what he was able to do at North Texas last year, and also being able to bring some of his notable offensive guys over to Oklahoma State. The one knock that I did have on him and why I couldn't make this a home run hire is because of the fact that this is a power conference job. It's a higher level of competition, and he just doesn't have the head coaching experience at the power conference level. But I think it's a really good hire, though.
I think something that gets overlooked with Eric Morris specifically is his talent recognition. Drew Messamaker walks on at North Texas, played safety in high school, walks on at North Texas and says, I want to be a quarterback. Just goes out and leads the nation in passing yards this past season. Out of nowhere, 34 touchdowns. Also, not to mention, star running back Caleb Hawkins was also in the backfield with him. Yeah, led the nation in rushing touchdowns. So I think Eric Morse is so far an underrated coach when it comes to talent acquisition. I'm not going to put him on Kurt Signetti level yet because that's like S plus tier of talent recognition. But Eric Morris is definitely in that conversation of being a great, eye for talent. And I think he doesn't get enough credit for that. So you could say the Oklahoma State Mean Green. So definitely Eric Morris is a solid hire.
Now moving over to the Pacific Northwest in Oregon State. And Jamarcus Shepard, he's someone that does have some ties out there in the northwestern part of the country. Spent some time in the Pacific Northwest during his playing and coaching career. This is his first time coaching, though. So I'm curious to see how it goes, but I do think it's a rock solid hire for Oregon State as they transition into a brand new Pac-12.
I graded him as a C plus solely because I get it. He has ties to the region. Former assistant at Washington when DeBoer was there, and then followed him to Alabama. So he does have plenty of, power level football acumen to his name. I feel like this was kind of a random hire, at least to me personally. I didn't really see this coming for Oregon State because he doesn't have experience as a head coach. He's only been an assistant his entire career. So, he does have assistant head coach on his resume, but
for now, though, we do have James Franklin on deck. I know Reed has some feelings about James Franklin. I do have him as a rock solid hire.
This is a multi-base hit hire. I graded him as an A just solely because he's one of few coaches that are active right now to win over 100 games in his career. 12 seasons at Penn State. Yeah, you can look at his bowl record. He went 6-6 in bowl games. Big frickin' whoop. One Big Ten championship in 2 appearances. Oh, big frickin' whoop. Dude consistently won 9, 10, 11 games a season. Brought him to their first playoff appearance. Won 2 playoff games. I don't care if it's against SMU and Boise State. That's the committee's fault. So consistently getting top 15, top 10 recruiting classes. Brought in the top 10 recruiting class to Virginia Tech, notably flipping 11 players from Penn State. Numerous staffers followed him to Blacksburg. I think he's still at the top of his coaching game. Virginia Tech is going to be back competing for the ACC within 2 years. Mark my words. You can clip it, put it in the hype videos. I do not care. Virginia Tech is going to be back with Franklin at the helm. James Franklin is going to do great things at Virginia Tech. This, for me, is a home run hire, but multi-base I'm cool with.
We got Jason Candle on the mic. Jason Candle, he knows how to win the G5. He's coming from Toledo, won some MAC titles. I had him as a rock solid hire, though. I didn't think it was a home run hire because he doesn't have any ties to the northeastern part of the country.
We can't overlook that he's the winningest coach in Toledo history with 81 wins. But to go from Toledo to UConn, I feel like I graded it as an A- solely because you're going from the Jim Mora era at UConn, where he brought you to multiple winning seasons. One of your best seasons in recent memory this past year in 2025. I feel like out of anywhere they could have gone, this is a really, really good hire for UConn. And I feel like they're going to pick up right where they left off with Jim Mora leaving. So I'm good with rock solid.
As speaking of Jim Mora, he just happens to be next on the tier maker. We thought about putting him as a home run hire. I really thought about it. Screw my notes. I'm going with Jim Mora as a home run hire. He's found a way to win it at UConn. He knows how to win the G5 level.
I've graded it at a B, so probably like that multi-base hit hire. To take a program like UConn to the heights that he did, winning 8, 9, 10 games a season, it's not an easy thing to do. The only knock I'm giving, and this is only in the immediate future with Jim Mora at the helm, we have no idea what that roster is going to be, and they were something to watch last year. So Colorado State took that risk, and I'm cool with this being a multi-base hit higher.
Tulane being quite the opposite, with John Summerall leading them to the college football playoff as the Tulane head coach. Now the head coach of the Florida Gators taking over for Billy Napier. Did have this one's a rock solid hire for Florida, seeing as he does understand the SEC footprint. He does know how to win, obviously, leading Tulane to the American title. Coaching the SEC and winning consistently in the SEC, that's a different story. He does have experience in doing that.
I view this as a multi-base hit hire just solely because even going back to his time at Troy before Tulane, 23-4, 852 win percentage. You in back-to-back Sun Belt championships. Dude is a proven winner. Dude is a proven winner. So I view this as a multi-base hit hire solely because I think to go from Billy Napier, who is the definition of mediocre, to getting a above average to potentially to be a top tier coach in the sport, and John Summerall, and I just think he's a great head coach.
In the G5, we got another G5 team on deck. Kirby Moore, he's taking over as the head coach at Washington State. I have this as kind of a meh hire. I wasn't as high in him as like some of these other hires.
I'm also cool with meh. I put it at a B-, and I was teetering on a C+. Cool with this being a meh. We'll see how it works out for Washington State. They kind of went outside the box with this one, if I'm being honest. Cool with Kirby Moore being a meh.
On the other hand, Kyle Whittingham, one of the bigger splashes that we saw during the coaching carousel. I am going to put him as a multi-base hit like type of hire. I thought, being able to secure experienced head coach and one that's had so much success at Utah. Really, the only thing that's holding me back in terms of making this a home run hire at the same time, though, is that he has zero ties to the Midwest.
I thought we were really going to get the first one, get the ball over the wall. I really thought we were going to get someone trotting around the bases with this one. To go through what Michigan went through with Sharon Moore and the whole situation that happened there, to backdoor their way into a top 10 coach in the sport is unbelievable. 22 years at Utah, 177 and 88, 11-6 in postseason play, two-time Pac-12 coach of the year, 9 AP top 25 finishes with Utah. This is a slam dunk hire. This is like a 360 windmill, like slam dunk contest type hire. Only knock I had on him was he's on the older side. He's 66 years old. So how long he is going to be in Ann Arbor, time will tell. But if you could bring that program back to stability from Sharon Moore, bring them back competing in the Big Ten at a minimum, it's an A grade hire. It's a home run hire for me.
But I do think we will get the ball over the wall tonight because we do have Lane Kiffin, and I need people to go ahead and put their feelings aside. We got to have an adult conversation about this one. He knows how to win in the SEC. So for me, I do have Lane Kiffin as a home run hire because he's proven that he can win in the SEC. And he took Ole Miss to really their greatest season of all time.
Without a doubt. Lane Kiffin is a home run hire because his talent acquisition has been unbelievable at a school like Ole Miss that isn't necessarily known for producing the best, like NFL level talent. For Lane Kiffin to consistently put out, top tier talent out of Ole Miss, that's unbelievable. So Lane Kiffin for LSU, A++, S+ tier hire, like whatever you want to call it. It's an amazing hire.
We got Mark Carney on deck. He is the head coach of Kent State. He was the interim coach all of last year. I went med here. I thought it was fine. He did a good job in terms of surpassing expectations. It was a nice rally around the flag last year for Kent State, getting to that 5-7.
I totally agree here. To take a school like Kent State and win 5 games is levels they haven't seen in forever. Did it as a B just solely because, again, Kent State seeing 5 wins in football is something they never see. So, yeah, I'm cool with Mark Carney in the meh category.
One coach that we won't have to necessarily worry about that is Matt Campbell rolling into town. I wanted to go with a multi-base hit hire, but I do want to commend him though on his ability to take a program like Iowa State, where has been one of the more difficult places to win at historically.
Penn State going on a coaching search for over 50 days for Matt Campbell, who should have been one of the very first phone calls that they gave, is unreal. I think he should have been in the first group of coaches you're reaching out to. Take a program like Iowa State, who is historically, very, very subpar at best, and to take them to multiple winning seasons, the best season they've also seen in school history. To take a program at that level, it's definitely going to be a rebuilding process at Penn State, or you could say the Penn State Cyclones. Matt Campbell, I graded it as an A. I am ecstatic as a Penn State fan and supporter to have Matt Campbell as our next head coach. Multi-base with the potential to be a home run hire. Time will tell, though.
Coach, so we do have on deck, we got Mike Jacobs now taking over as head coach of Toledo, coming from Mercer. This was an out-of-box hire. I thought it was an interesting hire. I went with Matt just because I haven't seen him coach at the FBS level.
Kind of similar to Bob Chesney's resume. He's done it at multiple stops at multiple different levels. Mike Jacobs has proven it on multiple different levels at the Division I and Division II levels. And so 94-23 record overall. I think I view this as an above average hire, just solely because he has a proven track record of getting it done at multiple places, multiple levels. So I don't see why he can't be successful at Toledo. So I graded it as a B+, so I'm perfectly good with an above average grade.
Person that's trying to redeem themselves and try to get that underachieving logo off their back, Neil Brown. Neil Brown is a head coach, ladies and gentlemen, once again. This time he is coaching at North Texas, which you guys remember his last stop. He got fired from West Virginia, and then his 1-year hiatus, he was a special assistant to Steve Sarkisian, not a coordinator. So for Neil Brown, I have questions because we have seen him win in the past, back in his time in Troy, but that was almost a decade ago.
I'm also in the meh to I have questions category. I'm cool with I have questions. You can put him there because basing this off his Troy resume, he was pretty good. 35-16, Sun Belt Championship in 2017, gets hired to West Virginia, and it's pretty mediocre, all things considered. 37-35. The best record he had in his tenure was 9-4. Definitely, it's going to be a change of scenery, especially because you're taking over a team that lost, I don't know the exact production number, but let's just say 70% of their production from last season. It's an uphill battle for Neil Brown at North Texas. I graded it as a C.
Got Pat Fitzgerald. He's your now head coach at Michigan State. I went with rock solid here for Pat Fitzgerald. I think he did a really good job in his time at Northwestern. But the last couple of years at Northwestern, he did fall off. They struggled to win games his last couple of years.
Because I graded it as a C. So I guess you could put above average, but it's like at the bottom rung of above average. But this is Michigan State. They've been to the near summit before. So is Pat Fitzgerald the guy to really get them back to the peaks that they want to get to? I'm not entirely sure at the moment. Yeah, I'm cool with anywhere between above average and meh for Pat Fitzgerald.
Pete Golding, on the other hand, I actually do have him as a solid hire as well. So normally when it comes to first-time head coaches going through their first full season, I would normally put in a meh category because we don't know what they're going to be. Because we saw Pete Golding win multiple playoff games after Lane Kiffin left for LSU, notably beating Georgia, which that's really hard to do. Kirby Smart is usually not the type of team that's going to beat itself. You're gonna have to go and beat him. And to Peacock's credit, he did beat him.
Above average?
That's fair.
I was a little not a little, I was a decent bit lower on Pete Golding solely because, I mean, and it's not, his resume is nothing too crazy. Like, yeah, former Alabama assistant. Okay, there's been numerous Alabama assistants that haven't really gone on to do amazing things. And also because I have a theory that a lot of the success he saw in the playoffs with Ole Miss were because he has a quarterback named Trinidad Chambliss that is a one of one. We'll see. We'll see with Pete Golding, but I feel like Ole Miss is going to dip down to earth a little bit under his tenure.
All right, so that takes us to Ryan Beard. Ryan Beard now coaching up Coastal Carolina. The Chanticleers. I went with rock solid hire here for Ryan Beard. I really appreciated how he was able to handle that transition from the FCS to the FBS.
I'm going to go with above average here. I feel like Ryan Beard is, I mean, I agree, Jake. He's a proven track record, especially from transitioning to FCS to the FBS. This is a rebuild with Coastal Carolina. This is a full-on rebuild. So how he manages that type of environment and roster building and retention and everything like that, time will tell. I graded it as a B- solely because he does have the upside of, rebuilding Coastal Carolina to being a fairly solid program again. So I'm going with a B-, so above average is good for me.
Someone that is definitely going to have a rebuild is Ryan Silverfield on his hands. He's going to be taking over a 2-10 Arkansas team, even though that is arguably one of the best offenses that we're ever going to see on a 2-10 football team last year. That offense was incredible. I do have Ryan Silverfield as a solid hire. He did a nice job at Memphis. He understands the SEC footprint.
I also think it's a rock solid hire. He's being a proven winner at the G5 level. I think will translate potentially to Arkansas. Now, time will tell. Yeah, time will tell. I graded it as a B- higher.
But Tosh Lapoivo, that man knows how to coach a defense, though.
Yes, he does.
He had a really good defense at Oregon. He's not at Oregon no more. He's at Cal. I have him as my sleeper pick in the ACC. I think that's a team to really watch out for with what he's able to retain and the work he's been able to do. I think it's a rock solid hire.
This is a multi-base hit hire. Experience at Alabama, Washington, multiple NFL teams. Not to mention this is his alma mater, so he knows exactly what needs to happen at Cal for them to be a winning program again. Admitted he wants Cal back to the heights of the Marshawn Lynch days, Deshaun Jackson. Like this dude's legit. And he knows how to coach a defense, that's for sure. And this is a multi-base hit hire. I agree, Jake. They are definitely going to be a sleeper in the ACC this year and for years to come during his tenure.
I don't think that this is going to be a guy that's going to get the ball over the fence. Will Hall, 11-40 at Southern Miss. How this man backdoor and kind of failed his way up into this job is beyond me. So we haven't used this tier tonight.
Yes.
But it's got to, if it's not used for this guy, I don't know. It's not going to be used at all. Will Hall, head coach of Tulane. What are we doing?
I feel like the athletic department sat all their coaches in a room, said, do any of you guys want to be the head coach? And this was the only guy that put his hand up. Be like, I will volunteer as tribute. Tulane, this is how you follow up John Summerall, one of the best head coaches in your school's history. This is how you follow it up. I graded it as a D-. So
yeah,
Tulane, what are we doing?
Will Stein, We know what we were doing.
Oh
He
yeah.
got ties to the state of Kentucky. He got college football playoff experience. First time head coach. So we'll see how he handles it. But I do keep the faith. I think it's a rock solid hire.
Multi-base for sure. If it's nothing, if you don't even look at his resume, if it's anything to go by, just look at former Oregon coordinators under Dan Lanning, namely Kenny Dillingham, and look what he's doing now. So, but I think Kentucky gets a steal as a head coach, bringing a top 15 portal class. So he's already getting the recognition from players outside the program. Kentucky, stuff can get wild at night in Lexington. That's all I'm going to say. Just remember that.
There's a few left. Morgan Scully of Utah taking over after, well, we thought Kyle Whittingham was going to retire. And then 5 minutes later, he decides, oh, I'm going to be the head coach at Michigan. I went Matt here just because he's been at the program for a really long time, but he's never been the guy.
Yeah, Morgan Scalley's he's been in the wings for a while, waiting for this job to be his, and it finally is. I think something in the upside for him in his first year is he does retain his starting quarterback, which is always a plus. I think it's one of these coaches, again, that was a former coordinator, not a former coordinator, but was the coordinator on the staff prior. So is this another situation of, does he take a step back from being the primary defensive play caller and, allows someone else to be the main play caller? Is that one of those situations here? So, but Scally individually, I put as a B minus. So I'm good with the meh, just mainly because we don't really know how it's going to be with him as a full-time head coach.
Colin Klein is certainly one of them. Former Heisman Trophy candidate back in the early 2010s. Some great years at Kansas State as a player. Seen him as a head offensive coordinator most recently at Texas A&M, part of helping with Marcel Reed. Now getting his first, possibly only head coaching opportunity because he returns to his alma mater. So for Colin Klein, because he has that college football playoff experience, he's back at his alma mater. Couldn't go higher than rock solid because it's a first time head coach again, but I can give a little bit more benefit of doubt given some of the other contexts.
Multi-base here, solely because I think his style of play calling will fit well to the Kansas State, personnel that they currently have and what they can build around. To think they were running an RPO based system at A&M with Marcel Reed. So you have to think Avery Johnson, mobile quarterback, has to get better with his arm, can be turnover prone at times. Sounds like Marcel Reed to me. So as long as he takes the same principles he had at Texas A&M and just fixes some of Avery Johnson's tweaks, Colin Klein could be, the next, great coach at Kansas State.
Yeah, someone that is also happy for a slightly bigger paycheck, I would imagine, is Jimmy Rogers, who took over at Iowa State after Matt Campbell did leave for Penn State. I went meh here because he does have coaching experience at the FBS level at Washington State. But to be honest, he was fine at Washington State.
I had it as a rock solid hire. So if we could put him in above average, his South Dakota State days, he was really good. He was on the 2022 staff where they won their first FCS title, took over in 2023 as a head coach, went 15-0 and won back-to-back FCS national championships. Granted, the 1 year at Washington State wasn't anything, spectacular, but for Iowa State, to have to replace Matt Campbell kind of abruptly, they hired him within, I think it was within 24 hours. Like, they hired him pretty quickly. Like, they were set. If Matt Campbell was out the door, that they knew their follow-ups. Rodgers has the pedigree to doing it at multiple levels, namely at a powerhouse like South Dakota State. If he's able to replicate some of the success there, even minimally, to Iowa State, which, again, historically, Iowa State has been a mediocre to below average program. So if he's able to replicate even some of that, it's an above average hire, and he goes down as, a pretty good head coach in Iowa State's history.
We are down to our last 3 coaches. One of them is the new head coach of Ohio after some funny business happened with their last head coach. We won't get too deep into why Brian Smith was fired.
We won't get too deep in that. You're right. We will not.
John Hulser did lead the Ohio Bobcats. He was on the staff last year. Was the interim head coach in the bowl game. Did win the bowl game. I went May here just because first time head coach. You only saw him coach the bowl game. I really don't know what to expect.
It gave a C grade. This is kind of a shot in the dark, if anything, for Ohio. They kind of are just taking a chance on a guy that was already on the staff. So, I mean, time will tell for the Bobcats for sure.
Yeah, which I almost didn't include him in the tier maker, but I realized Sacramento State is an FBS member now, so we gotta count him as a FBS new hire. Alonzo Carter, on the other hand, though, he is going to be a first-time head coach. And not only is he going to be a first-time head coach, he is taking over at a pivotal point in Sacramento State's football history with the transition from the FCS to the FBS level. I have questions. I don't know if it's going to work. I'm a little bit more skeptical than many of the other hires that we talked about earlier tonight.
Just solely because we don't know what we're going to get out of Alonzo Carter. Has great history, and everything has been said about him as an assistant coach. I think that's just too much transition at one time. You're going new head coach, new staff, player, turnover. You're going into a whole new conference, a whole new division of football. They should have gone, if they were planning on this FBS jump this whole time, they should have gone with someone that was more, established at the FBS level, at least somewhat. So there's definitely tons of questions surrounding Sacramento State. So I'm good with Alonzo Carter being in this category.
Yeah, and I mean, Sac's coach that we have, he is your new head coach at Stanford. Tavita Pritchard was the quarterbacks coach for the Washington Commanders.
For me, this is a classic. What are we doing, Andrew Luck? What are we doing? This guy has no experience, relatively close to being a head coach. He hasn't even been a coordinator. So the fact that we're just going off of, oh, he's a Stanford alum. He played quarterback here. I played quarterback here. We can relate, pretty well. That's not how a head coaching hire works, Andrew. Hire solely because there's no experience on his resume to being a coordinator, a co-coordinator, a special analyst to a program. At least Neil Brown can say that. He sat off a year at Texas, doing whatever he was doing for Steve Sarkisian. Did it as a D+. So I'm going to say it again. Stanford and Andrew Luck, what are we doing?
I don't know how we pulled it off. 35 coaching hires. We talked about them all tonight.